Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope on this. Let's see what's today's date is June 4th, month of June here on the Real Sports Scope. Got a great show with you on for tonight. Listen, folks, 30 minutes past the hour. Got Keith Engel from TGI Sports. Yes, Keith is back. Going to ask him about Tom Thibodeau being fired, of course, and get his thoughts on the Patriots draft, because I haven't talked to Keith in a while, but also going to get his thoughts on Stefon Diggs, story from last week, him with on video with the pink powdery substance there. But also myself going to cover that Tom Thibodeau, giving my opinion on that, what the Knicks should do, how they weigh out their options. Plenty to talk about there on that front. Plus, listen to two rookie quarterbacks that early on got a lot of hype coming in. One fizzled out. The other one remained with Cam Ward going number one overall. We all know what happened with Shedeur Sanders falling to the fifth round, but he's having some really good write-ups here in these mini camps here. Give you some thoughts on that as well. Stand by. We'll take our first and only break. I'll be back here momentarily, and we'll hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then. Trying to get this thing here in tack, but it looks like it's not going to be perfect here. All right. Well, we'll just roll with it like that. All righty then. All right. So, big story here. Biggest story of the week, folks, is Tom Thibodeau. Knicks fired Tom Thibodeau. A tough but right decision is what I say about this. First year back-to-back 50 win season, back-to-back 50 win seasons. First time in 2 decades. Also, first conference finals since 2000. That being said, consistently played more starters than anybody else in the league. Only recently used his bench consistently. Offense was often, and you guys know this, I wrote this stuff down, was a lot of hero ball. A lot of hero ball out of Jalen Brunson. Never could get Karl Anthony Towns to buy in defensively. This reminds me, and I've said this before, this reminds me of Mark Jackson taking over a talented but young non-defensive playing Golden State Warrior team led by Steph Curry, but he gets them to play defensive buy-in. Remember, he gets them to the playoffs, and it was a very controversial fire in there of Mark Jackson, former player. They went on and hired Steve Kerr. Kerr kept the defensive intense and added an offensive element to the game, kind of like when Mike Singletary took over a bad defensive 49er team and got them to fundamentally play better defense, but they were still a bad team. And then you get a Jim Harbaugh to come in there and work with the quarterback, then Colin Kaepernick and Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick. And, of course, we saw what happened then. They ended up going all the way to the Super Bowl. So this feels, listen, I think this simply a lot of the fans, a lot of the media They have emotional ties like that. What separates me from a lot, I look at this stuff from a big picture standpoint, from a standpoint of a general manager. Take the emotion out and look at the big picture. What you're trying to accomplish is to win a championship, okay? And he is not going to be broke anytime soon. I want to say they owe him about $30 million from his contract extension, if I'm not mistaken. I thought I had some stats here. I thought I had some of his numbers here, and I do. I'll have to go here and look at it. This is from Spot Track. The Knicks gave Thibodeau a 3-year extension through 2027, 2028, and reportedly guaranteed him $30 million. Now they will pay a buyout before that extension even kicked in. So he's in good shape. He's in good shape. But just here's a little bit more about how good he did have it. 226 and 174. That was his record. 4 playoff appearances in 5 years. 2021 Coach of the Year. 2024, 25. Of course, I mentioned the Eastern Conference Finals in 25 years, and of course, 250-win seasons. Very impressive there. Got that from my guys there at Ard Shark on Tom Thibodeau. That being said, again, so now what do you do? You know, I've looked at some of the openings here. There's been a lot of names being thrown out there. Obviously, Brian Windhorst put out a guy like Jeff Van Gundy, former Knicks coach. Now, Van Gundy is 63 years old, had an impressive resume with the now remember, he's been back in the league for 2 years. He's been calling games for, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years, whatever. But he's 63, but he's a young 63, okay? But he's got, this is according to Brian Windhorst, I got this through SI.com, that he's got rave reviews, his work with the Clippers and the Boston Celtics over the last couple of years. He knows what it takes to be a head coach in New York. He would be an excellent option. Maybe look at some people have never been NBA. So you get that right there. I've also noted another guy that is a young 63. Squeeze that for a second. Also, another option would be Mike Malone. Mike Malone, of course, the former Nuggets coach, ran hot there at the end. Remember, he won a championship with Denver just a few years ago. Ran hot there with the general manager, butted heads, wanted to play Westbrook more. General manager wanted to play some of the younger players more. They butted heads. The owner got irritated with both of them, fired both guys. So very similar to Rick Carlisle. Rick Carlisle's in the finals, folks. Rick Carlisle is in the NBA Finals now with the Indiana Pacers. And he was fired from, remember, he won a championship there with Dirk Nowitzki and the Dallas Mavericks. Been to 2 finals, won one, lost one there with the Dallas Mavericks. Things kind of went south there. Been there for a while. They fire him. The Pacers pick him up. The Pacers are back in the finals. Although underdogs, they are back in the finals. He has a lot of guys buying in. Could you bring in a Mike Malone, a championship-ready coach here to fill in? Hungry, would still keep the defensive edge, but I'm sure he would add some elements to the offense. He'll use his bench. He knew that was a weakness of the Denver Nuggets. That would be a good hire if he would even take the job. It is a desirable job. You have a pretty good roster here, a championship roster with talent on it, okay? So those are 2 big names right off the bat. Jay Wright would be my third choice. Maybe give him a 3 to 5 year deal. 63 years old, been out of the college game for a few years, but he's a young 63, energetic guy. Kind of reminds me of a Jeff Van Gundy a little bit. Kind of reminds me of a Pat Riley, the way he dresses with his sharp suits and whatnot. He's worked with, again, this is a big deal, Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, and Josh Hart. Those three former Villanova guys. I think he would be up for the challenge. This will be an interesting hire. I think he can make the transition to the NBA. I think that would be an excellent number 3 choice there. Okay. Now, as far as the other candidates, those are the 3 big ones. I think you can get one of them. I think you could simply get one of them. These are other names that are going around the internet. You can look at them through Google. You can look at guys like Brian Windhorst. You can check out some of the Knicks reporters here. But guys like candidates like Johnny Bryant, assistant from Cleveland, and Dave Bliss, assistant from the OKC. Remember, the Cleveland had the best record in the league for a long time this past year. If it wasn't for injuries, they may very well be in the finals right now. Brian, I would say, is like 39, 40 years old. Same thing with Dave Bliss of the OKC Thunder, both around 40. The only way I would take guys like that is if they were excellent interviews. They would have to knock my socks off because this is a ready-made championship team. You know, this is kind of like that Detroit Pistons team back in 04, 05 when they got Larry Brown in there. They had these players. They had a guy like a Larry Brown in there who won a national championship, been in the NBA for years. They're ready. So these young guys that's names are floating out there, they would have to absolutely kill it in the interview. Yes, they would bring energy, but they've got to maintain that level of intensity defense, and they've got to put an actual offense, a fluidity offense in there, and they've got to play these bench players, okay? So other names that are being thrown out there, Taylor Jenkins, former Memphis coach. There were rumors that he ran a loose ship up there in Memphis. I don't know if it was him or the organization. Either way, he was fired from Memphis. Was not impressed with his tenure with the Grizzlies. I would not hire former Memphis coach Taylor Jenkins. Mike Brown would just be a duplicate of Tom Thibodeau. Good defense at times. Not a lot of flow there. That's the former Sacramento Kings coach, former coach who used to play the Cleveland Cavaliers. I would not hire Mike Brown, but those names are being floated out there. Okay. Jay Wright, Jeff Van Gundy, and of course, Mike Malone would probably be the number 1 guy. So, and as far as this team is concerned, I know about Karl Anthony Towns, his defensive efficiencies. Like I said last week, I do not think they can get Giannis. I really don't. I don't think they can get a Giannis. I don't think they got the ammo. If they did, they would have to give up too much. It would eat into their depth. Depth is turning into a real thing. Roster construction depth, teams with depth and actually enough talent with their starters are actually winning these finals, folks. I think Oklahoma City is going to win this thing probably in 6 coming up Thursday, although we'll discuss it on a little bit more in depth with the Mad New Yorker tomorrow, per se. But that's the way I'd go about it. Again, totally okay with the firing of Tibbs. I just get a sense that he is you've got as far as you can go. Now, great motivator, pushes his players hard. They respect the heck out of him. Tom Thibodeau. You know, I got thinking about a guy like a Kelvin Sampson of the Houston Cougars college basketball team. Listen, he's a guy with a lot of energy. He's all in to coach basketball. Maybe he should try the college game. The college game now has general managers, both basketball, football. It's turning more into a pro model. I think he would be a good coach somewhere. I'd give him a shot. I'd give Tom Thibodeau a shot somewhere with that type of model per se. And I think he could be a Kelvin Sampson, who's a very good coach, had a shot to win a national championship at the University of Houston this past year. And he's also had a background in the NBA. So that's my thoughts on Thibodeau. He's owed $30 million. He's not going to go broke anytime soon. The Knicks, go out and think big here. Take your time. Don't rush into these hires. I would interview these two young men. I would interview Dave Bliss and Johnny Bryant, but they've got to kill it. They've got to absolutely kill it in the interview process for me to make that move, because this is a ready-made championship team per se. Okay? Got about 15 minutes. I know at 30 minutes past the hour, the great Keith Ingle will be on, so want to get to these other stories real quick. Also, so I've talked about guys like Cam Ward living up to the hype already. Already he's living up to the number one hype here. There's been reports out of here in Nashville. Let me give you some of his stats. I know you're saying, well, this is simply the preseason, shouldn't put too much into this. Well, I'm just telling you, the guy is looking really good here in these mini camps here. This is from NFL Rookie Watch on Tennessee's number one pick, Cam Ward. Play style, tough throw ability has reportedly been shocking those in attendance at Titans OTAs. Through 2 open OTA sessions the Titans have held, he went 23 of 38, 61%, 250 yards during 7 on 7 and 11 on 11. Ward was reportedly been attacking the middle of the field with no fear. Impressed Titans coaches. Ward's instincts, arm talent, angles, awareness have reportedly been frighteningly similar to Patrick Mahomes. That was one of the pre-draft comparisons. Not to mention, reportedly, he's been in facilities so much that he's been kicked out multiple times. Now, you've got to talk. If I'm the head coach here, I'm talking to the staff and saying, no, we want to encourage workaholics here, okay? That's the whole NFL way. He does not need to be kicked out of any type of OTAs. Brian Callahan says he shows up to work at 5 a.m. every day, and sometimes nights have to force him to leave. That's the kind of dedication you need to win in this league. That's the kind of dedication. Said this before, I'll say it again. Remind me a lot of Steve McNair when he played Florida last year in the opener when he was at Miami. The way he runs forward, throws off of his front foot, running forward. Very good touch on the ball, deep and intermediate. Kind of got a little Phillip Rivers, the way he sidearms the ball. I know that is unorthodox, but it seems it would be successful for him. Going to get Keith Ingle. Keith Ingle was live at his Syracuse game. Now, they lost that game, but he had a really good game against Syracuse at the end of the season there. See what he thinks about Cam Ward. So, as advertised, these same reports were coming out about Jayden Daniels. I've had Coach Kevin Carroll come on here, talked about Daniels coming in super early, working out like that with the Washington Commanders here. And I've also mentioned the fact that his numbers are very similar, almost identical to Jayden Daniels, his last year at Miami's to Daniels's last year at LSU. I would be very disappointed if this young man, does not win Rookie of the Year. Okay? Also, a lot has come out about, listen, all the noise aside, folks, Shedeur Sanders also getting rave reviews. This is what I've said about Shedeur Sanders. If you take out all the noise to Sanders, if you take out all the noise here, remember, this guy still has a FBS record here of the highest completion percentage in the history of college football at 74%. Now, that's two seasons there with the University of Colorado. Of course, he played the other two at Jackson State, though. But a career 74% completion percentage. 74% was his senior year. His last year was 74% completion percentage. Excuse me, I misspoke. But it's like 71 that is really good. It's the best ever. As far as he is a processor. If you could just get the noise, put the noise aside, he has a chance to start there for Cleveland. Okay, this is what the rookie watch is saying on him. I was looking at Cam Ward stuff. Okay, let's get back here to Schroeder Sanders. Stole the show once again at the Browns OTAs today. Sanders' precision, timing, and accuracy have been reportedly as advertised through a few practices now. He was 9 for 14, 64% completion percentage for 100 yards, 3 passes for touchdowns. Did have 1 interception off of a tip pass. One source close to the situation reportedly Sanders will close the case for fairly easily once he receives a consistent shot with the first team. Said, quote, "It feels insane to say this early, but the Tom Brady play style is becoming evident. He elevates the game of everyone around him. Sanders has reportedly shown the most promise of any of the Browns quarterbacks." Okay, that's from NFL Rookie Watch off the X app. My guess is Flacco will probably get the start early. Flacco being 40 years old, I think Flacco will probably start to look like the guy that's kind of bounced around the league, per se, after about week 5, week 6. And then I think, pending injury, that Schroeder Sanders will take over. I really do. I think Sanders will end up taking over. The guy falls to the 5th round in the draft there. The Browns are practically playing nothing for him, being a 5th round pick. This team has got a lot of players that has came in. They've got extra draft picks. There's a lot to be up about the Browns. Now, a lot of people just want to just take dumps on the Browns. They want to downsize the Browns. They want to criticize the Browns. The Browns have a lot of good players here. You know, they've got Myles Garrett on this football team. Okay, they've got Mason Graham as the defensive tackle there, who was arguably the best defensive tackle in this draft, per se. This team's they've got depth at running back here. They picked up some depth at the receiver position. Now they got some holes on that line that they're trying to figure out, per se. But hey, listen, Schroeder's got a quick release, man. He's got a quick release. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not, playing, and they're not playing well. We don't know when Deshaun Watson's going to be back. He may miss the first month. When he comes back, that they work out some kind of settlement with the guy, some type of injury settlement. He's coming back from Achilles, then he re-injured it. He might not come back at all, for all we know. No big write-ups on Dylan Gabriel. Kenny Pickett, his name was mentioned at the very beginning of camp. Now he seems non and void. And, of course, we know Flacco was there just to be really just an insurance policy, more of a backup, per se. Like I said, he's like, 40, 41 years old now. So he knows his days are numbered. And I know he said something last week about, my job is not really big. And listen, let me say this since I got some extra time. No quarterback. I used to really buy into that. Mentor the guy that's going to take your job. I'm not saying being helpful and being and showing people where the film room is, answering questions when need to. But like he basically said, Joe Flacco said, I want to say it last week or so, may have been a week before that, but they should be able to learn by watching me, watching how he goes through his film work, his prep work, watch his footwork when he's out there throwing the ball. Absorb everything. What are you hiring these quarterback coaches for? What is your offensive coordinator for? That's who you're supposed to be dealing with. All the quarterbacks meet in the same room together. What do you expect him to do? I remember Chris Chandler, he didn't help the McNair out. And he said McNair said this guy was kind of cold with him. Well, McNair turned out to be a pretty good player with the Titans. Won an MVP one year, and Tennessee got to the Super Bowl one year. So this whole idea that that's what the coaches are for. That's what Brett Favre said. I'm okay with that. Now, I ain't saying you got to be a jerk towards them. That's just being a bad teammate. And some guys will take that role. But I was okay with what Flacco said. I don't have any problem with that. Just observe, emulate, do as or better than, And some players don't want to be mentored by others. I remember Nick Foles. That was a problem with Justin Fields, reportedly, with his stint with Chicago. Foles tried to work with him, tried to mentor. Foles got a Super Bowl ring. Fields didn't want to hear it. And Fields struggled because of it. And I'm sure maybe he's grown up since then, like a lot of these quarterbacks have grown up, like a Baker Mayfield. Maybe they'll get their shot here. So, but anyways, either way, I just think Dad needs to be quiet. I think he's figuring that out. He's still talking, but I think once the season comes along, he's going to start coaching at Colorado. I think he's going to be measured. I could be wrong, but I think that Deion will be measured in what he says about their situation. Because, listen, at the 5th round, I mean, if he becomes too much of a distraction, this is on the other hand, if he becomes too much, I mean, they can cut him without any regards. 5th round picks get cut all the time the first year, And he's aware of that, Deion. So Deion's kind of really got him hurt. I know it's caused a big fuss, people taking sides here and whatnot. That being said, I do believe some of the criticisms of Shedeur Sanders blowing off meetings, being coached mainly kind of his dad influencing that stuff. I think this was a humbling experience for him. I'm sure beneath all that, what he's saying publicly, he's really hurt inside. He's a little bit bummed out about that, to say the least. We all would be, but you take it in stride, you use it for motivation, and I'm sure that's what he's been told, per se. All right. So we'll see how this thing works out. I know it's not even regular training camp, but you start to see it early. You don't want to see guys struggling to make basic throws. You don't want to hear or read that stuff in these mini camps. I mean, they mean something, but they don't. Okay. We'll really start to see it in the training camp. And of course, the preseason will really be interesting once we get around to August. I mean, the Cleveland Browns preseason games are going to be must see. I mean, you're going to see Kenny Pickett out there. You're going to see Shedeur Sanders out there. I'm not sure Flacco will play, but I mean, Dylan Gabriel. What if Dylan Gabriel has a good preseason? They're only playing 3 games. And what if he gets traded? I mean, this is going to be a very interesting storyline to follow up in Cleveland, per se. One of the most interesting preseason, of course, with the Titans, and of course with Cam Ward. That's going to be another good one as well. So, man, my guy showed up early. Now, I was just finishing up here on that. Let me make sure and get our media things set up here. Keith Angle, who's not been on the program in a while because I've been busy and I've been wanting to bring him back, and I haven't talked to him since the draft. Let's have a round of applause. Hey, Keith, how you doing, man?
Robert, how are you?
Good, buddy. Good to see you. I was real curious about this. Tom Thibodeau getting fired. I know there's two schools of thought on it. Mine is it very much reminds me of the Mark Jackson situation with Golden State when he got the defense to play good, got a team that wasn't really they was young, but they were sluggish defensively, developed the culture. You could see some flaws offensively. They go out and get Steve Kerr. The rest is history. What are your thoughts about Tom Thibodeau getting fired after really turning this team around, man?
Ridiculous.
Oh, that's what most that's the school of thought for most.
This team, Robert, this team won 7 playoff games from 2001 until Tom Thibodeau was hired. He's won 24.
24.
He got them to their first conference championship in 25 years. Mark Jackson never got that team to a championship series.
That's true. That's true.
League championship series. They have gotten better each year. Some of the knocks on him, which, listen, he's not a perfect coach. We know he overplays the starters. This year he did it because he had no choice. There's no bench.
Yeah.
Where's the criticism of Leon Rose for putting this team in this position that we've got to overplay the starters because there's just no bench. Their bench was twice as good as it. They had the bench they had last year. They would have beat the Pacers, and they'd be playing and probably getting killed by the Oklahoma City Thunder. Yeah. But Tom Thibodeau should look at. Again, he's not a perfect coach. If you say he's not the guy to get you to the next step, you should know who the guy is, and they don't. There's no plan.
There's no plan. You don't think
you're rolling
Mike Malone or somebody like that, or
Mike Malone? And don't call him Mike. He likes Michael since he won a championship. Can't call him Michael. God drives me nuts. He's the same guy as Tom Thibodeau. They want a different voice. He's the same exact voice as Tom Thibodeau in that locker room. He's also a guy who didn't get along with his best player in Jokic. He didn't want them to draft Jokic when he was there. He's a very successful coach. He won a championship.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's going to play well in New York. I really don't. And if they end up with one of the top assistants, Johnny Bryan is high on their list. I know he was an assistant coach here. A little surprised he didn't get the Suns job, frankly.
Okay.
But you're rolling the dice. The Golden State rolled the dice with Steve Kerr, and they hit a home run. Well, that's kind of a mixed metaphor, but anyway, they rolled the dice and they hit a home run.
I get it. I hear it.
Right? But
they rolled a 7.
And I mean, that happens 20% of the time? I don't know. You lose more often than you win in those types of situations. So who's the better coach you're going to bring in there? You bring in an assistant, I get it. You're going to gamble. But as far as established coaches that are available, you got Michael Malone. You got
Jeff Van Gundy's been assistant for 2 years now.
He's not going to take that job and replace a guy who was one of his guys.
Okay.
Tom Thibodeau's a Jeff Van Gundy
disciple.
A disciple. He's not going to retake that job when his friend just got fired. I can't see. I don't see the Knicks going back there either. I'd be okay with that. I don't think it'll happen.
What about Jay Wright? That's 3 former Villanova
Jay
players.
Wright is the only guy. If I said I got to move on from Tom Thibodeau, the only guy I would say I got to do that for is Jay Wright. He's not coming. It's not.
He even dresses like Pat Riley.
Obviously he's never coached in the pros.
Yeah.
He knows very well these 3 guys from Villanova that he coached a national championship. I do think his style, his approach would play in the NBA.
Yeah.
Problem is he's never going to do it. They should throw everything they can at him, and I don't think he'll take the job. Seth Davis, who works for CBS and has worked with Jay Wright for a few years now on TV, said that he's got a better chance of being the Knicks coach than Jay Wright does. So it's probably not going to happen. And the other college guy that's getting thrown around and will for a few weeks is going to be Danny Hurley. And I think Danny Hurley's a great college coach. I do not think he's the right fit for the Knicks or maybe any NBA team. I can't see him coaching in this league. I know the Lakers were hot for him last year. I think it'd have been a hot mess out there with Danny Hurley, and I think he
dodged a huge bomb there by not taking that job.
But I think it'd be a hot mess because of him and the way. He's a volatile guy, and I don't think it's going to play well in a big NBA city. So
that's interesting. That's interesting.
Look, this is a huge gamble. This is Leon Rose has got to take his own share of the blame here. Again, this isn't a perfect team, but this isn't Tom Thibodeau's fault. Tom Thibodeau took a team that their starters were minus 30 for the whole season. One of the worst of all the playoff teams. Yeah. And he got this team to the conference finals. I think we're underselling how good Tom Thibodeau is. And I think it's a shame that he doesn't get a chance to try to finish this job.
What about the criticism? And I've seen this myself. Too much hero ball with Brunson in the offense. Not enough fluidity.
There is a lot of that. You see, there are times where it doesn't happen. That there's really good ball movement.
Yes,
but times where you see, Bridges and Anunoby standing in the corners for like minutes at a time, just not moving at all. And I used to say, and I didn't see it as much in the playoffs, and you'd see it at the end of games more than during the games. But it was reminiscent of when Carmelo was there, and he was like a black hole. The ball goes in and never comes out, and Brunson would fall into that sometimes. But again, he's your best option, and I don't, I didn't see as much of that in the playoffs. I just think they ran into a really good team. I don't think he was necessarily outcoached. I think they had the horses and he didn't. They were more athletic, they were quicker, deeper. They got more productive minutes off their bench, and the Knicks were just gassed, I think, by the end.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've said on this show, just by looking at this OKC Thunder team, looking at what the Indiana Pacers have done, going out and get Siakam the year before last, this is more of a general manager's league. You talked about Leon Rose. He does. I think he does expect some. He does. It's good to blame. Expect some of the blame to go his way because of Karl Anthony Towns' lack of defense, and him and Brunson together. There's some statistics on him. Those two are big defensive holes on that team. And, I think it's like 80-20 general manager to coaching. Don't you think nowadays?
Probably. Yeah. And I agree with your analysis of Brunson and Towns on defense. They're not good. Towns, quite frankly, I mean, in that Indiana series, he should have been taking a ball to the basket like every time he got it. They had nobody to stop him. Nobody could stop him taking a ball. And he falls in love with a three-pointer, which he can shoot a little bit. But I think the last game he was 0 for 4. I mean, he should be shooting outside. There's enough guys to do that.
Shaq said one time when he took one of those 35-footers, he's like, man, we'd be fighting in the locker room seeing him taking them kind of threes like that.
Yeah, I think Charles Barkley said, I think he told them when they were doing a post-game interview after Game 5, or whatever. Did they win Game 5? I think they won Game 5.
That's 1-1 today. Yeah,
they won Game 5. They're interviewing him afterwards, and him and Shaq both kind of said to his face, you're not doing yourself or the Knicks any favors, or you're doing a favor for the Pacers when you take that 30-foot jump shot.
He's addicted to it. It's like you can't. And also that was part of the problem that I read, that him and Thibodeau wasn't getting through to him. So Leon Rose getting Towns, look how well Hartenstein's playing. Think if they would have kept Hartenstein together and kept those picks and not overpaid for, who was it, Bridges, they would have had a shot at Giannis this year.
I'm okay with Bridges, quite frankly. Yes, they would have had a shot at Bridges. I agree. And I'm okay with Bridges coming on this team. My big deal was bringing in Towns, because you depleted that bench that I talked about. They're better with Josh Hart coming off the bench. Hartenstein is showing you what kind of player he is. He was great off that Knick bench, especially in the playoffs last year. You would have still had DiVincenzo coming off the bench for some instant offense. That's the thing they didn't have this year. There's nobody to come off that bench and give that spark that they had. And I think Tibbs unfairly, before this year, I think it was unfair that he said he rode his starters too hard. He played a lot of guys off the bench the last couple of years. The 3 guys I just mentioned, for the most part, nobody's playing more than 8 guys really significant minutes, especially when you get to the playoffs. This year, he really did ride those guys harder because he had no options. Look at that bench and tell me where he should have gone to get these guys some time off. There's nowhere to go.
Do you think he would be a good fit, kind of like a Kelvin Sampson at Houston in college? I think he'd be a good fit in a college game, Tom Thibodeau.
Maybe. If he was younger, I would say absolutely. He's 67 years old. I don't know if there's a program that's going to take a chance on him a major program. It's going to take a chance on him at 67 years old. It's happened. I mean, Kelvin Sampson, but Kelvin Sampson was an assistant in the pros after he was a coach at two major universities too.
Yeah.
But Mike Woodson went back and had, mixed results at Indiana when he went back to college. So it's happened at not a young age. I mean, he was in his 60s when he went back. So it's possible. I think Tibbs will get another NBA, one more shot in the NBA. He's the oldest coach, I think, in the NBA when the season ended.
But he's got a lot of energy, though. I mean, I don't know.
He does. Look at he's not everybody's vision of a NBA coach, right? You talked about Jay Wright and looking like Pat Riley. I mean, that's the anti Tom Thibodeau look, right? He's grumpy out there. His hair's a mess. He's sweaty, and he just doesn't look like a guy who ought to be coaching basketball in New York City. But the fact remains, he did a tremendous job here. When you look back at what's gone on here the last 25 years,
yeah, that's true.
This is not the way it should have ended for Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah. I think he'll land on his feet though somewhere.
He probably will.
Yeah, he's got $30 million.
He's got plenty of money. He's not going to have to worry about that, and he'll probably get a job somewhere. Maybe not next year. If not, it'll be the year after, and he'll do very well and wear out his welcome like he seems to everywhere. There's probably more.
He runs hot, don't he, Keith?
He does. He does. And I'll say this one more time. I know he's not going to do it. I know Jay Wright will not take the job, but if I'm the Knicks, I'm going to pull up to his house tomorrow and say, what's it going to take, Jay? We'll give you anything you want.
15, 20 million. Let's do it, brother.
I don't think he wants it, but
just for 4 or 5 years, Keith, just to win the chip or try to take a shot at it.
Maybe he's got the fire back after not being there. He wanted this job. He was asked, a bunch of times in his career, if you were to coach in the NBA, where would you want to coach? And he said New York all the time.
Yeah, he's coached a lot up there in the Big East tournament.
Yeah. Well, he coached Manhattan, I think, right? Before he went to Villanova, I believe Jay Wright coached in Manhattan too. Yeah. So
home away from home. Hey, I got to ask you about this Pats story with the Patriots. Stephon Diggs last week saw with the video of a pink powder seemed to really irritate Mike Vrabel at the press conference. They signed him to a 3-year deal. What's your thoughts on this Stephon Diggs situation?
From what I've heard, there's other things too that have irritated Mike Vrabel and the Patriots since they signed Stephon Diggs. This is one that became public. I don't know. They have not elaborated on the other ones, but there's been some whispers or some other things that have ticked them off. And there was even some whispers that he might have got released this week. That didn't happen. Yeah. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. But he also showed up at a voluntary OTA just the other day, and I don't think he would have done that if this hadn't become such a public firestorm. I think Vrabel said you will come to this voluntary one of these voluntary workouts. He's got a personality, and if he's got enough left in him, and because Vrabel's not going to let him just run wild. Yeah. Things are already different. I saw an interview with Drake May this morning talking about Vrabel and the difference that there is around the building during these OTAs. And he says, we're here to work for 4 hours. He says, you don't hear music blaring in the hallways, and guys are here taking things seriously. Because Mike Vrabel is a very serious guy. Yeah. And he knows what he wants. And I do think the Patriots are going to improve. Stephon Diggs could be a big help to this team if he's got his head somewhere other than,
Was you discouraged by that? I mean, 1 year with Houston, pushed his way out of Buffalo, pushed his way out of Minnesota. What was your thoughts when they first signed Diggs?
Mixed, right? I don't like the way he's forced himself out of places, but he's also performed very well in those places until he forced himself out. He didn't really force himself out of Texas. I think the injury forced him out of there. So you got to worry about the injury at his age. I think he's 31. I think he's 31.
Yeah, 31, 32, yeah.
Yeah. Coming off a serious injury, which, with modern medicine and whatnot,
Yeah.
and techniques today isn't as serious as it might have been years ago. But if he can give you what he gave his first 2 or 3 years in Minnesota and his first couple of years in Buffalo,
Yeah.
I think Vrabel and the Patriots would be happy with that, because you didn't hear a lot of the bad part about Diggs until after he established himself in all these places.
Yeah.
Then he gets a little louder. Then he starts talking about his contract. Then he talks about his targets, he's going to be the elder statesman basically in that wide receiver room, and he could help these younger guys maybe learn the ropes a little bit. I don't know if he's going to accept that type of role, but he can also be a weapon if he's healthy, at least for a couple of years. And then if he gets to be a problem, we'll hit the highway. We'll get rid of him.
Well, how come Houston didn't keep? I mean, just an injury. Do you think maybe it's because of Nico Collins and Tank Dell or something?
Yeah, I think they don't think they had enough, footballs to go around. Tank Dell's going to come back. He established himself before he got hurt.
Right.
He'd established himself, I think, as a second receiver there myself. Nico is obviously number one if he's healthy, and I think Houston was getting out in front of the bad Stephon Diggs.
And I feel like they watch our shows sometimes, Keith.
It's possible. They should.
A little Stephon Diggs will go a long way.
Right.
Yeah. After the honeymoon phase, man.
A lot of these guys should watch our shows. They wouldn't sign the wrong guys, and they'd go after the right guys if they're wrong.
Hey, let me ask you about this. Will Campbell, going back to the draft, I haven't talked to you in a while.
Yeah.
Were you surprised that they went offensive lineman Will Campbell with that fourth? What was it? What did they have? Fourth pick, right?
Fourth pick, yeah. Unless they had moved up or somebody, did something silly in front of them, and either Hunter or Carter fell to them.
Yeah.
They were going offensive lineman. It was just a matter of whether it was going to be Campbell or the kid from Missouri. Can't remember. Membo.
Yeah, I couldn't remember his name either. Yeah, I know you're talking about
the Jets took him, which is a great pick for them too.
Yes, at 7, I think. Yeah.
That was a great pick. So I think it was just a choice between the two guys. And I think Will Campbell, they talk a lot about his short arms and whatnot. This kid, he played at, level just below the NFL and the SEC, and he did just fine for 4 years. And I think he'll be fine on this offensive line. They need to protect Drake May because they need to find out. He played really well last year. And this is an important year. The year 2 for these rookie quarterbacks is so important.
Yeah.
And Drake May's got a huge advantage over where Mac Jones was. You think about where Mac Jones is now. After his rookie year, he was basically Drake May. He had the similar year, even a better year, because he played the whole season. His numbers were better.
Yeah.
Going into that second season, there's a big difference. Bill Belichick gave him two guys as of offense coordinator and quarterback coaches who didn't have anything to do with offense before in their careers in football.
It was terrible. It was terrible. I still can't believe Bill did that.
Bill Belichick, who spent his career putting people in positions to succeed, right?
Yeah.
That's what he did best. Players, coaches, made the stupidest decision he ever made in the most critical year for a quarterback in year 2.
Yeah.
Drake May is going to get Josh McDaniel. That's a huge, huge difference.
That really is. Are you a little surprised that, or should I say pleasantly surprised that they did go offense and Mike Vrabel? That was part of the issue why they fired him here. He wanted to pick the players.
Yeah.
Are you pleasantly surprised that it's not him making that final call? Or do you see that ever even being a problem with him getting that head coaching job with New England?
No, I think he's always going to have input, but I don't think it's going to be where, he's going to be a Bill Belichick.
Okay.
Or Bill Parcells, right? They want me to cook the dinner. I should let me pick the.
Got to go grocery shopping.
Right.
I love that line. Yeah.
I think the head coach should always have some input, but I think it's too hard to do all of that today. It's too hard to do both jobs.
Yeah.
And I think the Patriots had a pretty good draft myself and a good free agency. They went with some of Vrabel's guys on defense. He got some of the people that he wanted and he knows. And if they pan out, I think they'll be much better on defense. I like the I love the kid they picked. Trayvon Henderson, I think, is going to add a huge dimension to this team.
Okay.
Running back. I think him and Stevenson will be a great combination.
I forgot about Trayvon Henderson from Ohio State. Yeah,
I think that was a great pick. And the kid they picked at wide receiver out of Washington, whose name's escaping me at the moment.
Okay.
I like a lot as well. I think they did a really, really good job. And then they did a pretty good job again with a few more offensive linemen, some defensive linemen, and later on in the draft. I think the Patriots did pretty well here. Did they do well enough to get back into the playoff picture? I don't know. Yeah. I think if things break right, this team could win 9 games, maybe even 10 games.
Woo!
If they don't break right, they could also win 5.
Right back in there.
And if they don't protect the quarterback, it's the rest of it won't matter. You got to protect the quarterback, and they did make some moves to try to strengthen that offensive line through the draft and free agency, and also Cole Strange will be back, hopefully healthy next year, which will help. Okay. So I have a healthy optimism, which I haven't had in a couple of years now. So
that's a good point you made about year 2 with Drake May. He gets Josh McDaniels versus year 2, Mac Jones gets Matt Patricia and Joe Judge.
Crazy.
That's Curly and Larry from the Three Stooges for offense.
On offense. Matt Patricia is a great defensive coach, but not offense. I mean, and Bill Belichick saying, coaches coach. Good coaches can coach any position. That's crazy.
Offense is pretty complex now.
So he set 3 people up to fail, including his quarterback,
Mac Jones, who still hasn't recovered.
Never. He who knows? I mean, Mac Jones will probably have a career carrying a clipboard, and maybe he'll get a chance again one day. And if the situation's right, maybe he does okay.
Yeah.
But we'll never know, because
it's NFL. Anything can happen. Hey, you were at the Syracuse game last year. The Titans went on and picked Cam Ward. You saw him in person. What's your thoughts on Cam Ward?
I'm a big Hurricane fan, and saw him play pretty much every down last year on TV, and saw him in person at the Dome, Carrier Dome, or whatever they call it these days. Cam Ward has a chance to be a really good quarterback.
Okay.
He's not perfect.
Right.
He's got things to work on. He holds the ball too long sometimes. He tries to fit the ball places where he can't fit it. But he's got a quick release. He's got a lot of good qualities, but he's going to get thrown in there from day one, most likely. And that can be dangerous, right? I mean, you can lose a quarterback early. I always like a quarterback to be able to sit, even if it's for part of that first season. Like Drake May sat for at least a month or whatever.
Didn't he?
6 games. Pretty much played out of necessity because, Brissett was just bad. Mostly because of the offensive line. But even getting that few weeks to kind of get a feel for how fast the game is and whatnot, I think served Drake May really well. And I worry about all these. You see guys, I don't know whether Zach Wilson ever would have been any good. I don't know. But I know when he went into a bad situation in New York and was thrown into the starting lineup, his confidence was destroyed almost immediately.
Oh, man.
And I don't think you'll ever know. I mean, he might have, in a different situation where he could have learned from somebody or watched for a season or even part of a season. And he's just an example. There's a lot of guys, I think, that are like this that you'll never know because they just got overwhelmed. Their confidence gets shattered and they can never get it back. Happened to Mac Jones. It just didn't happen his rookie year. It happened his second year.
Yeah.
And confidence is a huge thing. And I hope Cam Ward's a very confident kid, though, too. I mean, you got to remember, this is a guy who nobody wanted out of high school. He's a 0-star recruit.
Right.
0.
Well, I mean, I'm saying that because he's getting rave reviews from the Titans. He's there at 5 o'clock in the morning. And
I love the kid. His work ethic is awesome. He got a lot of heat for sitting out the second half of their bowl game. But you know what? The plan all along, he was going to come out after the first quarter. And he wanted to keep playing. And then Cristobal said, "That's it, you're done." And but he was there on the sideline. He was trying to coach up the kid that replaced him. And I kept thinking they'd put him in the game when they had a chance to win at the end. But
that would have been nice.
They didn't.
The W.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think they played Iowa State in that bowl game. It was a really fun game, and they probably should have won that game. That was similar to Syracuse game.
Right. Shedeur Sanders getting a lot of ink here also. These are just mini camps. Any chance he starts this year?
I think there's a chance. Yeah. I wasn't high on Shedeur Sanders being a top 10 pick, but there's no way Shedeur Sanders is a 5th round pick either. By the way,
okay,
he's better than that. He's a good quarterback, and he could be a serviceable NFL quarterback. He's not going to be a star. Ward's got much better chance to go on to be a star than Shedeur Sanders.
Okay.
But I do think Shedeur Sanders has the tools. Again, he's a work in progress, but there's not a lot to love in that quarterback room. I'm a little surprised they took Dylan Gabriel. I think they were surprised Shedeur was still there, so they took him.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I think there's a better – I'm not a big Dylan Gabriel fan, by the way. I just – I see the same things, and I don't know why everybody's in love with Michael Penix, right? So to me, they're a very similar player.
Wow. I don't know. I think I just saw the big games from Penix, and he played well, but
he
kind of struggled with Atlanta after the first game. So we'll see.
They're very pedestrian. He only was like 2-4 or something. He played 60% of his passes.
I may have been wrong about Penix. I don't know.
He might be great. I don't know, but I wasn't, again, that's another whole story that I don't blame Kirk. I'm not usually a fan of guys not showing up for camps and holding out. I mean, he's not holding out for money. He's holding out because he wants to get out of town, because I think the Falcons have been lying to him since the minute they signed him.
That's true.
And I don't blame Kirk Cousins for feeling the way that he feels, because they didn't do anything to help that team get better last year when they had a $4 million quarterback. Yeah. You don't draft the guy. You just tried the guy for $40 million for 4 years, and then you draft a quarterback at 7 to replace him. That wasn't going to help you last year.
They didn't have a plan. Do you think, is it too early to start talking about Aaron Judge possibly hitting 400?
No, we're past Memorial. I think now you get into June, you can start thinking about those things. What's he at now? 394, maybe something like that.
Yeah, he had 2 home runs the other day against a losing effort, but he's
by far, in my mind, and not just because I'm a Yankee fan. I mean, maybe I'm a little biased, but he's by far the best player in Major League Baseball, because he does everything. He doesn't. People talk about Soto. The Yankees are better off without Soto. He only did one thing. He's not even doing that right now. He hit. That's it. He's a great hitter. He'll hit.
Soto, and he's still hitting. I think he's got a shot to hit it if he can stay healthy, because without these shifts, Keith, I don't see. I mean, if they walked him, but I don't know if they're going to walk it that much. No,
and again, Bellinger's been pretty good behind him. Whoever's behind him has been okay. Goldschmidt's been really good in front of him, so he's always going to have.
So underrated, ain't he?
I thought he was a great signing. I said when they signed him, and the people were like, "Oh, did you see his year last year?" I'm like, if there's one guy I think can rebound, it'd be Goldschmidt, because he tinkered with his swing the offseason before. Why, I don't know, but then he went back to his old swing the second half of the season, and he really was pretty good.
Mr. Consistent.
Yeah. So I don't think that was a really team-friendly signing. It was only like $14 million, I think they're paying him. That's peanuts today. So,
boy, that guy's something. Who do you think's going to win the finals starting tomorrow there, Keith? I mean, does Indiana got a chance?
Oklahoma City's really good. They got the best player in the league, in my mind and most people's minds. They've got guys who know their roles, like Hartenstein, who you mentioned before, and it's important to have those guys that just know what their job is. Indiana, I give the Pacers a fighting chance. This game could go. It could be 4 games. It could be 6. I don't think they'll win. I think if they get to 6 games, I think they'll be lucky.
I'm leaning 6 too. Yeah, 6 for Oklahoma City, but it's not going to be a sweep.
Unless something crazy happens, the Pacers are going to have a very tight. If they win this, it's going to have to be in 7 games, and something crazy is going to have to happen. I will say this: Rick Carlisle is one of the most underrated coaches in the NBA. He's been around a while. He's won championships. Every team he's coached has been a contender, from Detroit to Dallas to I think he's been in Indianapolis. He might have been in Indiana twice. I'm not sure. I think he might have been there twice. But you never hear about Rick Carlisle when we're talking about some of the best coaches in the NBA.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
Coaching makes a difference.
He got fired from Dallas and things kind of worn thin, kind of like Mike Malone. That's where I was referring back to.
Yeah. I think guys wear out their welcome, right? I mean, guys stop listening. They're right. Yeah, they need a new voice, but the Knicks didn't. This wasn't a team that didn't make the playoffs, that went out weekly in the first round.
Yeah. But I was saying, but Carlisle, it seemed like a new location really spurred some energy into him, It
was the same way, I think, when he got to Dallas. I think it was the same kind of thing. And then, both of the team and him needed something different. And he's worked out really well for Indiana, for him and the team. So,
man,
I hope it's a close. I'd like to see some good games.
Me too. I like to see it go 7 games. I want to see more basketball. Keith, who are you getting on Friday? You were talking about somebody on your page, and I didn't catch all of it.
I have an encore interview. I've been so busy.
It's an encore. Okay.
Yeah, so I got Mackie Sasser, though, former Met catcher.
Okay.
He played with the Mets in '86 when they went to the World Series, and he had a couple of really good years with the Mets and some other teams in the National League. He was a great interview. We had a lot of fun. But we've been playing some best ofs the last few weeks because I've been busy.
Same here, buddy. Same here.
And it's been hard to chase down the new interviews, but we'll get back into it. I retire in 84 days.
From your day job?
84 days and 4 hours.
But you're going to stay on TGI, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. We're going to stay. We'll be doing that, and hopefully we'll be able to maybe expand the interviews because I'll have some more time to chase people around a little bit, and we're going to have some fun with the podcast for sure.
Wow. Hey, congratulations, man. Is there any changes on your show times you need to announce or anything?
Right now, no. We still do the college huddle at 7:00 on Wednesdays. We do the interview show at 9:00. These are all Eastern times. 9:00 Friday, the MLB update 3:00 on Friday, and the ever popular Sunday Stream of Consciousness at 8:30 Sunday, which we have a lot of fun on Sunday mornings.
The great Keith Angle, everybody. Hey, buddy, appreciate it. Have a good night, man.
Thank you, Robert.
See ya. All right, everybody. I'll be back here tomorrow. Some good cuts there. Man, I'm going to get a lot of good cuts. I love Keith Angle. Boy, he's great, ain't he? Going to have the Mad New Yorker talk about this. We'll go over our predictions. I'm leaning OKC in 6. But we'll see. I just want a good series. I'll have Mad New Yorker on tomorrow. Hopefully, if he's not caught up at his Pokemon tournament, but he hasn't got back to me, so I think he probably will be here. So have a good night, everybody. I'll see you. Otherwise, same time, same place here on the Real Sports Scope.